This is KGW News at noon.
First at noon, a global climate strike. Massive crowds of protesters in Australia, Kenya, and all across Europe. Here in the U.S., from the Northeast to Nebraska, hundreds of thousands of students have left their classrooms to protest global warming and anti-climate change policies. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Brenda Braxton. Downtown Portland is packed with protesters, many of them students. Let's get right to KGW's Tim Gordon, who's following the activists. Tim.
I'm Brenda. We're standing in the street, 3rd and Madison in the intersection here, and you can see the thousands of people around me here just departing Terry Shrunk Plaza. I don't do crowd estimates, but we'll say there are several thousand people here, at least. A lot of people gathered, and this was put together, this global climate strike here in Portland by young people from elementary through high school age, with some help from adults to make this happen. But this is a huge crowd of young people and adults as well who are saying that it's time for action. It is a huge group. We can take you up to Sky 8 as well, and you maybe get a little bit better view of the crowd size. It is large. We've got everybody just starting to move. So the plan at this point, after about an hour and a half of speeches and rallying and music here at Terry Shrunk Plaza, and you can hear the crowds, the plan is that they're going to go across the Hawthorne Bridge, celebration over there. There'll be food to eat and things to do, but there'll be a gathering point over near OMSI on the east side of the river, on the east bank over there. And this is expected to go on for much of the afternoon. These kids getting out of school, this is a global climate strike, and they're here with their message.
We have reached a point where we can no longer avoid or repress our rage. We can no longer afford to not act on our unfulfillment. Just feeling bad is no longer an option because it is not effective. But feeling bad and using that as momentum to rise up and make a change is.
We must do this because we all have a stake in the state of our climate and our world.
Yeah, they're serious. They say enough is enough, now is the time. And there are some demands for the city of Portland, that the city formally announce a climate crisis, that city leaders do that, and that they also take into account with every decision that they make environmental concerns. So this is really two major demands that the kids are telling the city of Portland need to happen. Again, this throng of thousands of people moving across the Hawthorne Bridge to the East Bank to keep this thing going. Brenda, back to you.
That's right, that climate festival running until 5 o'clock this evening. Tim, thank you. So since we are talking about a lot of students, we wanted to let you know how Portland Public Schools is handling this protest. The district says students in middle and high school can leave class to attend the protest without any consequences whatsoever if they get permission from their teachers. Younger kids can also attend the protests, but their parents should call their elementary schools to let the administrators know this is an excused absence. Portland Public Schools also says it can't take responsibility for the safety of its students once they're off school property. We do have multiple crews on the ground covering this strike. You can continue to follow it on KGW.com and our social pages. We'll be live streaming the march and the rallies all day. And tune in for KGW News at 4, 5, and 6 for more coverage of the global climate strike. Now to some great news. We're happy to share this. An 80-year-old woman who'd been lost in the Mount Hood National Forest has been found. Akemi Takahashi was mushroom hunting yesterday, but she didn't make it back to her car last night. Her son is a former manager here at KGW. Search and rescue crews found her this morning about 550 yards from her car. She did have a whistle, which helped rescuers find her. Takahashi was taken to the hospital to get checked out. She'll be treated for hypothermia.
And her whole entire yard was just covered in water. There was no way out.
Everything can be replaced, but people I'm worried about.
Southeast Texas is seeing catastrophic flooding as the remnants of Tropical Storm Imelda dump a historic amount of rain. At least 2 people have died and many small towns are devastated. In and around Houston, there have been more than 1,000 water rescues. Some areas have gotten more than 40 inches of rain, if you can imagine. And with highways underwater, it's difficult for rescue crews to reach the hardest hit neighborhoods.
To be able to help people in their worst times, there's nothing more rewarding.
That's Ron Burby from Vancouver, Washington. He's part of the local Red Cross that's heading down to Texas today. He's been a volunteer with that organization for 3 years and has been deployed more than a dozen times. What he's doing down south this time could change at a moment's notice, but he'll start with damage assessment, basically inspecting flooded properties.
I'm excited to go to help the people. I'm not so excited with the scars I'm going to come home with, okay? Because you can't go to these relief operations and help people and not be affected by it.
He and 4 other volunteers expect to be there for about 2 weeks, and more could join them if needed. Okay, back here at home, a pretty quiet weather day. Let's check in with Rod for your first forecast.
You're being kind. You could have said, gee, it's a really chilly summer day, but you went with quiet. I appreciate that. Here we are. By the way, for your weekend plans, this is the front that we're tracking, and the timing of this cloud band, which will bring rain, is still on track for Sunday morning. Now, what it's tough to tell ahead of that, pretty much all of this is just a cool air pocket that we are locked into, and it's going to make it difficult to get any widespread clearing this afternoon. Radar right now is pretty quiet, but I will tell you, if you look at some of the live cameras, you can see some spritzes of light rain that simply is below where the radar would be picking it up, if that makes sense. So here's Futurecast. Here's 3 o'clock. Some breaks in the cloud covering spots, but overall still mostly cloudy, and overall still that chance of a spritzy shower. I really think once we get to 7:30, now we're into high school football games, etc., that your Friday evening really ought to be dry. I suppose the chance of a stray shower is not 0, but it looks pretty good. Here are the clouds from Cannon Beach. Some people out enjoying their Friday afternoon, 64 degrees there. Some of the cloud breaks south of Portland. Here's the Oregon Garden out in Silverton, so that's showing promise of a little bit of clearing. Downtown Portland, much darker, 63 degrees. We'll probably stay in the 60s for a high. I do have a dry day tomorrow, and then we'll get more into that Sunday cold front. Brenda, do you remember that warm weather I had on the 7-day?
I do.
Well, since you remember, I'm going to walk out of screen, and we'll talk about that later.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Thank you, Rod. All right, now we want to get you caught up on some of the Friday headlines. Police arrested a 16-year-old accused of threatening to carry out a school shooting at Sandy High. The kid posted on social media, TikTok specifically. The student is charged with disorderly conduct, but investigators say the kid did not have access to weapons, and they don't believe the threat was credible. Someone shot a suspected thief outside a Portland Home Depot Thursday afternoon. This happened at the store out near the airport. Police say a loss prevention agent was confronting the suspected thief when a community member got into a fight with the suspect and weapons were shown. The community member then shot the suspect, who's now in critical condition at the hospital. Police say the shooter is cooperating with investigators. And the historic McMinimans Edgefield Hotel is back open after a broken sprinkler pipe flooded all 3 floors Wednesday night. It was a big old mess. 200 hotel guests had to evacuate. Thankfully, though, the damage isn't quite as bad as expected. Listen to this, you guys. A spokesperson says a guest likely broke the pipe by trying to hang on it. And the latest today in the vaping epidemic, Walmart will stop selling e-cigarettes. In a memo today, Walmart blamed the regulatory complexity and uncertainty surrounding the products. Health officials are investigating 530 cases of a mysterious lung disease that's now killed 8 people. In the meantime, the Trump administration is readying a federal ban on flavored e-cigarettes, while other cities and states are pursuing similar measures.